us have been at crossroads while having to choose between our careers and families. Let's reflect on that question for a few seconds. At the one end is an opportunity of our dreams, while at the other is our family. Having to make a choice between our career and family is extremely difficult. Let me take you back to 2009, when I was at the peak of my career, working at an oil and gas consulting firm based out of Plano, a small suburban city in the state of Texas. I was seated with the president of my company, who out of the blue had offered me the green card, the most coveted reward of my American dream. My eyes lit up on hearing the news. That night, when I was celebrating at dinner with my friends, I received a phone call from my younger sister in Mumbai. Sunita spoke with a stutter. Shekhar, Dad has had a stroke last night. He has been admitted to the hospital. The doctor says that the next 48 hours are critical. Mom isn't holding up well. Is there any chance that you can make it home? I couldn't sleep a wink thereafter. I took my next flight out to Mumbai. Luckily for us, our father responded well to treatment and recovered in 3 days. 2 weeks later, I was back in Plano with the American dream staring right at me. On the one hand was the joy of embracing a rare opportunity of my dreams, while on the other was the guilt of not being there with my family. The sight of my father breathing through a ventilator in an operation room flashed in front of my eyes at that very moment. In 2 days, I turned that offer down and took the decision to relocate to Mumbai for good. I had no career plan in mind. After 2 weeks of rest, I commenced my job search. After 2 months of grueling interviews across industries, I finally settled for a sales job at a chemicals company. Yet there was something troubling me. All my friends were either happily settled abroad or hustling through the chaotic streets of Mumbai for work. And there I was, confused, as if only my life appeared to be lacking a larger purpose. Then, at an onboarding event at my new company, a colleague popped a question at the lunch table. Why on earth did you join this industry, which is on the brink of collapse? My face turned pale. I began to feel sweat trickle down my spine. It was at this moment that I began questioning the decision to relocate back to India. In few weeks, I began questioning every move that I had made since the beginning of my career. I was finally very confused. Then, while I was delivering a pitch at the client's office, my feet began to tremble. My mind went blank. I couldn't speak a word thereafter. And my colleagues had to step in to bail me out of that embarrassing situation. That night, I kept replaying that episode in my mind again and again and again. Imagine a tiny speck of snow that is rolling down a hill. With each passing rotation, this speck gathers with it more and more snow, eventually building up into a large snowball. The snowball begins to move down the hill erratically, without any control. When our mind holds on to a tiny seed of thought triggered by a negative episode, that seed of thought begins to grow in size every time we replay that episode in our minds again and again. Eventually, this seed of thought builds up into such a huge size that it engulfs our mind to a point of no return. And that is what happened to me. I struggled to face my colleagues at workplace and withdrew from every social interaction. While I was at home, I'd barely be able to connect with my family. 6 months passed as I dragged myself to work every single day without sleep. I had begun hallucinating, and my anxiety had started turning into panic attacks. Facing people had now become an insurmountable challenge for me. It took me 9 months, the help of my family, a psychiatrist, and medication to restore my mental health back in order. During the course of these 9 months, I discovered a learning model that has helped me evolve out of that challenge. This learning model can be composed of 4 elements. The first element of the model is the challenge that confronts us. Being concerned with my unstable behavior, Radhika, my wife, urged me to go consult a therapist. I outrightly denied the possibility of my suffering from clinical depression or anxiety. Growing up, I had come to believe that psychotherapists are only needed by mentally weak individuals. A few weeks passed, and I remained firm on my argument. But Radhika was determined, and in the end, she prevailed, and I began my journey with a counselor. The medication and counseling sessions fueled a catharsis, a liberation of sorts, releasing every speck of negativity from my system. On a cold and a chilly morning, I was awestruck, noticing my 3-year-old daughter, Kyra, completely immersed in her toys. She appeared to be relishing each moment as if nothing else mattered to her. It is at this moment that I witnessed a shift in my thought process. A moment of incredible insight, an extraordinary revelation. Accepting the challenge was the key step for triggering my transformation. That brings us to the second element of the model, that is, action. Dan Millman, the author of The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, has said, "Take out the trash." The trash is anything that is keeping you from the only thing that matters. This moment. Here. Now. And when you truly are in the here and the now, you'd be amazed at what you can do and how well you can do it. When I was caught up in the snowball of regrets, the snowball had overpowered me, preventing me from taking action. I had slipped into a deadly state of inertia. In that state, the negative consequences of any action appeared to be amplified in my mind. Prior to taking action, I had been seduced into making excuses. Excuses such as, why is only my life filled with challenges? What is the use of pursuing such an activity when luck has never been on my side? But each time I noticed my daughter immersed in her toys, I felt a tectonic shift in my thought process. I went from a very miserable, why me mindset to a more curious, how to mindset. This was the much needed eureka moment that I had been waiting for. From that moment onwards, I made a fresh start and began charting out a plan of action daily. Without ruminating on the quality of the plan, I remained focused on execution. Wherever I would get stuck up in any task or activity, I'd make it a point to seek help without batting an eyelid. It is at this moment that I discovered the third element of the model, that is, repetition. Small acts continuously repeated over a sustained period have potential to create an incredible impact. That impact motivated me to chart out weekly plans of action. With conscious effort, I graduated from weekly goals onto monthly targets. At the end of the year, when I took stock of what I had accomplished, I felt great. Me and those around me were amazed at what I had accomplished professionally and also personally. I felt a sense of fulfillment, joy. Living each moment to the fullest requires conscious and deliberate practice. That brings us to the last element of the model, that is, evolution. When we achieve a state of fulfillment or happiness, we tend to settle onto a new equilibrium state or a comfort zone. Let's delve a little deeper into this. When we are confronted with the first challenge, the initial part of our performance curve dips. This happens because we are on a learning curve, and learning, as we all know, always comes at a cost. But if we remain sincere with our efforts and committed to our goals, without being affected by these cursory disappointments, we are bound to witness several eureka moments along the journey. Our sustained efforts through repetition is bound to make us realize a new peak performance. Eventually, our performance curve stabilizes at a new equilibrium level. While we would have accomplished a new skill by overcoming the first challenge, the learning trajectory tapers off to reach a new plateau. If we desire to evolve out of this plateau, we must consciously choose our next challenge. Evolution is thus an outcome of continuous experiments that result from consciously challenging the status quo. The success of the care learning model is predicated on how consciously we recalibrate this model with a new challenge each time we reach a new equilibrium. I want to draw your attention to an important point here. Having made a choice, if we regret that choice long enough, we are bound to settle onto a new low on the performance curve that eventually spirals into depression. But if we desire to evolve out of this state of depression, we must act. And seeking help from a professional or from family is also action. seeking help is not a sign of weakness. Crossroads and challenges shall eternally be a part of our journey, always forcing us to make a difficult choice between two alternatives. But whether we accept or regret the choices that we make is most likely going to determine if we evolve out of or dissolve into them. Thank you.